Sure. We're ganging up on Ben Shepherd. Good luck. Good luck. Now, after making her acting debut in Biker Grove at the age of just 14, Jill Halfpenny has gone on to become one of the most recognisable faces on British TV.
But behind the scenes, she spent years struggling to process two major losses in her life, her dad, Colin, and her partner, Matt, who both tragically died of heart attacks.
As she opens up for the first time about her battle to find happiness in the midst of grief, Jill is joining us in the studio to share her story. And it is a really sad story, for sure. But you also do this brilliant thing in the book, I feel, like if somebody was going through a similar thing and was right in the midst of all that grief and almost couldn't see the wood for the trees to get... You chat to them like you're their friend and you talk to them like, here's how we're going to navigate this.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I just wanted to help people. I wanted a book for people that were really struggling, with the loss of someone or something. And I wanted to say to them, this is what I did that helped me. And give them some context and give them some story about how I got there in the first place, but give them hope.
Yes.
It's really scary sometimes in the midst of grief. You have this loss of hope and suddenly everything that seems to come like into your future can feel quite despairing. And I just wanted to say to people, I get it, I know that feeling, but believe me, like there's things that we can do that I think can help us get through it. And thankfully I'm now at a stage in my life where I can feel hope again and I can feel joy again. But that doesn't mean to say I don't have my dark days.
Not.
But that's, yeah, I wanted it to be like something that people could hold on to, like you say, like a friend.
It's like the tone.
And why now, though, Jill? Why did you suddenly want to write it?
Honestly, I was having a conversation with my agent and she said, have you got anything going on in your head? Is there anything you want to do? And I literally had just found myself saying the words that day, yes, I want to write a book. I had been thinking about it, but you know when you just say something one day and you go, turns out this is it. And then we set the wheels in motion and I pitched it to my book agent and it was just one of those things where I do kind of follow my instinct quite a lot. And I thought, well, I've said the words out loud. Now I need to put it into practice and I just need to write it.
Sometimes it's when you put it out in the world, it's like, and now I've said it, so now it is so.
Yeah, and it's scary, but it's good.
At the beginning of the book, you talk about losing your dad, and I think you were only 4 at the time. And from reading it, you very much get the impression that there was never closure for you. It was very kind of... Grief was almost taboo and was hidden away, and not your mum was just trying to cope as best she could.
Yeah.
How did that affect you?
Yeah, I think that can happen. You know, it was 1979, it was the northeast of England, you know, we weren't sitting down with therapists. And we went into survival mode and we went into, come on, let's get on with it, let's do. So we just became like a big family of doers. We were just busy and we were productive and we got on with things. So externally, everything looked really good. But I think internally, we're all really struggling because sometimes you just really need to talk about how you feel. It's just as simple as that. And I think especially when you're little and you don't necessarily have the words, you need the guidance. You need someone to say, well, how are you feeling? Or maybe, you know, now with kids, they do a lot of art therapy, things like that. So I think what happened was I then became an adult and I thought, wow, I've really skipped over a huge part of this process and I'm going to now have to go back and try and pick it up. But what was really difficult was grieving somebody that I didn't know a lot about.
Yes.
Couldn't really remember as well.
Couldn't really remember. It was really hard. But it's there if you search for it.
Yes.
If you connect with it and you connect with the feeling, it's always there. But you have to allow yourself to sit in those uncomfortable feelings and just be OK with not being OK for a while.
So when you tragically lost Matt...
Yeah.
Was that the moment where you sort of had to go back and unpick what had happened to your dad? Because there were so many similarities in the way that it had happened.
Yeah, I just thought, OK, this is awful, but this is my chance now. I'm cracked open, I'm raw. Let's go and do all the work that I hadn't done with my dad and let's grieve them both together and let's see what I can learn from it and let's see if it can... In some ways, does this make sense, set me free?
Yes,
you know?
of course it does.
So that's kind of what
There's a catharsis from doing it.
Yeah.
But going and doing that, I mean, from your family's perspective, you're being very personal and very open, but it's their grief as well. How did they find the process and you doing this? Were they nervous about you sort of delving and sharing some of these things, or did they actually get something from it as well?
Yeah, they were really generous and really good about it, and we sat down and we spoke about it. They all read the book before it went to print, so anything that they were uncomfortable with, but they weren't. We were all really aware that we kind of all separately and silently went off and did our grieving in different ways, and that there's never a wrong time to then come together and say, you know what, we all had the same dad, we all had the same experience, so let's share it. It's just sharing something, just feeling less alone, and there's just such great comfort in sitting down with somebody and just looking into their eyes and just telling them how you felt, or sharing memories. You know, my eldest sister shared some beautiful memories with me that she had about Dad, and she was like, you can have them now, and I was like, thank you, that's really nice, I will.
And they were memories that you hadn't heard before because you'd never sat down and talked about it?
No, and they weren't mine. There was some memories that she had of, like, playing Neil Sedaka and sitting in the car with them. And she was like, I want to give you these memories because I want to paint a bigger picture for you of what this man was like and what he meant to me. And so it's now like I have just a broader idea of who he was, and it makes me happy to have those memories.
Well, it's so funny because the minute you make those memories happy, because I know that your mum only had one picture of your dad, but there's a picture here of Matt and your little boy, Harvey, when he was little. And can you tell me what was going on in this picture?
Yeah, so we'd not long been going out, and we went for a Sunday roast in some bougie pub in central London, and we all ordered sticky toffee pudding.
Yeah.
And me and Matt, you know, tucked into ours, and we had no problem finishing it. And Harvey was like, you know, I'm too full, I can't finish mine. And I was like, that's okay. And Matt said, well, I'll have the rest of yours, Harvey.
Yeah.
And he just looked at Matt, and then he looked at me, and he just spat into the dessert. And I was so shocked. That was like a total...
Because it was quite a new relationship,
It was
wasn't
like, you know, you've got my mum, you're not going to take my pudding as well. And I was...
He was marking his territory.
I was shocked, But, you know, we laughed about it afterwards, and, you know, they had a really good relationship, actually, but it was, things like that, you know, they'll always be with me and they'll always stay with me, and it's, like... Once you've processed your pain, I think you can look back and remember your loved ones with a smile and with a lightness in your heart. And like I say, that doesn't mean to say that every day's a good day. It's certainly not. But I think grief work is something that maybe people don't realise, that you can actually do work to process it. You don't just have to think that you live with something and you don't know what to do with it. And in the book, I sort of explain the things that I did to help me through it.
We do phone-ins about grief occasionally with Deirdre, and it's always so painful to listen to somebody going through the loss, an immediate loss of a child potentially, or a partner, and the sense of bleakness. Because they can't feel like they're ever going to get to the point where you are, Jill, where you can look back and those memories actually bring them warmth and joy rather than pain and anguish. So what are some of those things that you would suggest people can do if they're watching today and they're struggling?
I mean, one of my mantras, especially on a day that I'm struggling, is get out of your head and into your body. And that's, for me, exercise. And that could take on any form for anyone that's listening. Whatever you do that stops you from living here in your head, because grief is so much about what ifs, shoulda, woulda, coulda. So just get out of your head and into your body just for 45 minutes or an hour, and just allow your brain to slow down. And just allow those thoughts to just dissipate slightly. So that's one. Another one is I really practice gratitude now. Like, I send a gratitude list to my friend, 2 of my friends every night, and they send me one back.
Oh, that's
and
good.
In the worst days after losing Matt, I just couldn't imagine being grateful for anything, and I would find myself having to write this list of 10 things, and I would... Oh, I had a nice cup of tea. Harvey seemed to have a nice day at school. And it was the tiniest things, but gratitude is like a muscle, and you have to work it. And what you realise is, when you work that muscle, suddenly there's just so much to be grateful for all the time.
Brilliant.
So there's two
really
little
simple
things. Really simple, they don't cost money.
No.
And it's just little things like that. But it is a practice, and it is something that we have to do for ourselves.
Well, it's a brilliant book. It's practical. The tone is lovely. It's like having a friend who gives you the best advice. Her book is out now, A Life Reimagined. Jill Halfpenny. Well,
thanks
so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Have some fun.